Hello everyone, and thanks for coming back to the channel. I thought I would share kind of my tools as I've updated a bit. And the thing that sparked this was I saw a post on Facebook. I can't remember the posting name, and quite honestly I can't find it now. Someone listed a tool, and it was a different brand, but this kind of identical tool. And people were going, oh yeah, I want one of those, where can I get one? And it was European branded. And I just kind of saw it and thought, yo, I have one. I moved on. I haven't shared it with you all. So this is obviously, it's labeled Duratrax. I think it comes under a bunch of different names, but it's a really handy tool, especially for those of you that go out hiking or go to remote locations to do your flying. I think this tool may be something that you like. I got this from Amazon. I think it was about $22, $23. And what it is it's got 12 ends that it uses. And you can see these ends, they're neatly tucked away in here. And then we have a little turning. We turn this and we just slide our finger along it and it comes right out. And how you put it in the end is you press this little lever or button here to release the tension on it. And it comes right out. You can actually decide to leave it out longer. So if you're not doing something quad related, or maybe, well, let me get that stuck there. Okay. And you just want longer extension off the end, you can get that, or you can sink it all the way down. If I can get it to go now. There we go. That's all the way flush if you need something nice and short. So it carries all the bits plus one in the shaft. The only thing that I wish were a bit different, if you look at the ends, it's only got one position that it stays in, which is this one here, that a bit doesn't come out of. So you can't get it, in between here. It's got some sort of mechanism in here, it locks it in place. So if you don't put it here and you have it here, your bit slides out, which you generally don't want. So that's the one drawback to this. And as far as the bits that it has in there, it has millimeter heads down to 1.5 millimeter, which we oftentimes use for our 2 millimeter mounting screws for micros. It's got that all the way up to, I think it's 3. Yeah, there it is, 3. We've also got inches here and fractions, and we've got Phillips head, and we've got straight. So we've got quite a few different head ends, and it's a very handy tool. It's one that I've turned to, and mainly I've spent actually quite a bit of money on tools. Not too long. I got a set of these. I think I got these from Banggood, which work just fine. They're very serviceable. I don't think the steel or the metal is all that hard, but it carries its bits. Oh, if I can get it off of there. That's part of my frustration, is changing out the bits with this thing. I couldn't even get that end off on screen. I had to take a tool to it. But so it carries its bits in here, and that can be fairly handy, except this end just doesn't work all that well. And because of my frustration in swapping this out, then I bought a set like this. I only have the 2 that I use out most of the time, and they're fine. And I also got frustrated with those because they have a set screw here and the thing continually works loose. So eventually I did end up putting some blue Loctite in there to keep the bit in, because there's a flat spot on the bit, so you have to line it up in there and then tighten it down. And these ends also come off relatively easy. I suppose you could store something down in there if you want to, but I don't know how useful that would be. I've lost one of the ends, but so I have these as well, and these work fine. I keep them just off camera, so when I'm building, I've got easy access to them. But I've just found this to be so much handier, because I've got everything right here. I don't have to go back into my bins off camera and look for different stuff. I've got generally everything I need as far as turning a screw right here. So I thought I would share that. Also, I do have the TS, I think it's 1000, and this is a really cool, but in my opinion, it's fairly expensive soldering iron. It's got a USB port there on the end, and you can update firmware. I believe there's a custom firmware. I haven't tried it myself, but you can do different things with that firmware, like change various timing settings for when this thing goes to sleep. It detects when you pick it up or when there's movement, and it'll start to warm up. You turn it on with 2 button presses. I'm not crazy about the holding shape. I tend to hold it here, and I'm just not crazy about it, but it does work very well. And because I oftentimes don't have hours to sit down, especially if I'm doing a repair, I want this thing to be warm right away, and I want to be able to do my little repair so I can get back outside to fly. It's very unique in the fact that it is cool to the touch all the way to this big part down here. So when this thing's running 300 and some odd degrees, you can touch it down here and it's still cool. I think there's actually a picture of someone holding it like this, and the internet kind of blew up and think, oh, you can't hold it that way, you'll burn your fingers, but you actually can. So this is pretty cool and pretty handy. You can get a barrel adapter so that you can use it out at the field, which is good. I have a butane soldering iron that I would take with me whenever I do travel, which is fairly infrequently. Last couple bits, I found this very handy. It's kind of a flat needle nose, and this is the one I turn to. I rarely use my round needle nose anymore. Give you a good look. I'll try to find links to these. I suspect they came from Amazon as well. This could come from Harbor Freight. If you're not familiar with Harbor Freight, it's kind of a cheap hardware tool site. They also have stores. The store's not very close, so when I get a chance and I'm over in that direction, I do kind of cruise through. It's kind of crowded and hard to find stuff in that place, though. But I do find that these flat ends, for whatever reason, they speak to me, and I tend to use these when I'm building rather than my round ones. And snips, don't get this pair, because I own a pair of these, and they don't quite line up to where they snip cleanly. And I don't think I damaged them. I think they came that way, so I bought another set. This blue set, I think it says Extron or Extron. I'm not sure what that says. But this set, I've got two sets of these. One that came with another piece of equipment, and this set. And these line up perfectly, and they snip real nice, so you can cut little tiny wires, and they work quite well. Now, there's nothing that says you have to use these tools to build. I've built without these tools. Matter of fact, here is my original soldering iron, and I think this was $11 from Banggood, and I must have built 50 quads with this thing. Works just fine. Tip's in good shape still. The downside is this does take quite a while to warm up. I'm not certain how accurate this little turn dial is for temperature, but I did find that it worked for me. And the last tool that I'm going to bring to you, if you struggle with those little wires on, say, 1103, 1102, or 703, 705 motors, I find that fingernail clippers work pretty well. There is a bit of finesse on the smaller end of those wires. You just kind of snip around them repeatedly, trying to be real steady, and then you get a hold. You don't squeeze too hard. You just get a little bit of pressure and pop them off. That's how I have used these in the hobby. Oftentimes, if you have nice silicone wires, you can just use your fingernails. Oh, mine are kind of dirty, but you can just use your fingernails and strip them off. But when you have those nylon or plastic coated wires, these will also do the trick. So there's a few tools to help you out while building. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, if you have some cool tools of your own, I'd love to hear about them. Put them down in the description. You can put links. YouTube oftentimes slurps off anything, any comment with a link is spam. And that's kind of rightfully so, because 90% of the comments I get with links are spam. So I'll review those, and then I will submit those upon approval. Okay, thanks for watching.